Statues have been built throughout history to honor figures, beliefs, and ideas, but some rise above the rest, towering over landscapes and cities. Today, we're counting down the 15 tallest statues in the world. Starting with number 15, the Spring Temple Buddha. Located in northeastern China, the Spring Temple Buddha is big. It's 128 meters tall on its own and 153 meters tall when its pedestal building is included. This makes it the second largest statue on the planet, surpassed only by India's Statue of Unity. It was built between 1997 and 2008, and all in all, it cost about $55 million to erect. Unsurprisingly, its size makes it a popular tourist attraction in the region. Number 14. Usiku Daibutsu. Located in central Japan, Usiku Daibutsu was built to commemorate the medieval monk Shinran. He was the founder of the Jodo Shinshu, which was also known as the True Pure Land School of Buddhism. Built between 1993 and 2008, the 100-meter-tall statue is the fifth largest in the world. To build it, the statue was divided into 20 tiers and both designed and assembled on the ground before being attached to the statue by crane. Number 13. Lake Yunsei. While Lake Yunsei is large, to a non-Buddhist it looks very strange. Located in Myanmar, it depicts a standing Gautama Buddha next to a reclining statue of Gautama Buddha. The former, at 116 meters in height, is the third largest statue in the world, while the latter is the world's largest reclining Buddha. The reason why the two statues were placed together is because it depicts the Mahapari Nirvana. According to Buddhists, this is the state a dead person enters after attaining nirvana. Number 12. The Guishan Guanyin. If you head to central China, you can see a statue that's like no other. It's known as the Guishan Guanyin. It's a 99-meter-tall figure that's gilded with bronze and has 36 hands coming out of it. It depicts a manifestation of the Bodhisattva Guanyin. In Chan Buddhism, this is a type of Buddhist divinity on the path towards further enlightenment. And while building it took quite the effort, it's now standing as a beloved spot for both locals and tourists alike. Number 11. Aaji Canon. Of all the statues on this list, the largest to no longer be around is the Aaji Canon, the brainchild of Japanese real estate magnate Toyokichi Okuchi. The construction of the statue began in 1977, and it was completed in 1982. Depicting Canon, who's a figure from Buddhist divinity, the statue came in at 80 meters in height, and it was mounted on a 20-meter pedestal. While it was enjoyed for decades, in 2006 its interior was closed to visitors due to major structural issues. In the 2010s, typhoons further damaged the structure, and in early 2023 the entire thing was demolished. Number 10. The Great Buddha of Thailand. Like much of Asia, Thailand is a majority Buddhist country, and the Great Buddha of Thailand is perhaps the country's greatest Buddha statue. Built between 1990 and 2008, the 92-meter-tall figure was made of concrete and painted gold. Unlike most large statues of Buddha on this list, the Great Buddha is in a sitting position and makes its great height even more impressive. It was also part of a restoration effort. You see, the Great Buddha is located in a temple known as Wat Muang, and said temple was destroyed during the ransacking of the former Thai capital, Ayutthaya, by the Burmese in the 18th century. For years, various impositions made a rebuild difficult. However, after years of work and planning, Wat Muang is finally rebuilt in 1982. In 1990, work began on the Big Buddha, and according to reports, the statue was made as a glorious addition to the temple in order to commemorate King Bhumibol of Thailand. The end result is an incredible statue that's helped make the Wat Muang temple both a tourist and a religious hotspot. Number 9. The Statue of Belief. Shiva is one of the most important gods in Hinduism, and the Statue of Belief is the largest statue of Shiva on the planet. In this depiction, the 106-meter-tall Shiva sits in a seated position with his legs crossed while holding a trishula in his left hand. Built by Mr. Madhwan Paliwal, who is the chairman of the Mirage Group, It was made to be a pilgrimage site and done so at great expense. After all, it took 750 skilled workers 10 years to complete this impressive structure. While this took quite a while, all of this hard work has helped to contribute to that longevity. You see, the Statue of Belief has been coated with zinc to increase its longevity to 250 years. It's also finished with copper and sculpted into what are believed to be Shiva's exact details, expressions, features, and emotions. Furthermore, the statue is built to withstand wind speeds up to 250 kph and earthquakes of some pretty heavy intensity. Bigger than practically anything that could reasonably occur in the region. This will ensure that the Statue of Belief will be enjoyed for generations. The statue also has some additional features to increase its religious significance. For example, a water jet at the apex of the statue represents the holy river Ganga, which flows from Shiva's matted hair. An 8-meter-high statue of Nandi has also been built facing Shiva. Nandi is a celestial bull and a vehicle of Shiva, and its position suggests that Nandi is beholding Shiva's divine form with reverence and love. However, a visit here doesn't just consist of looking at a statue. Rather, an entire complex has been created to make your stay as engaging as possible. The hollow space inside the statue has slabs at various levels to enable movement within the statue and access to features such as a visitor room and a VIP lounge. The statue also has viewing galleries at heights of 82 and 85 meters, giving visitors some amazing views of the surrounding countryside. Meanwhile, the outside of the statue is chock full of activities too. The grounds include exciting attractions such as a 3D projected sound and light show, a go-karting ring at the Shiva's backside, and a 56-meter-tall bungee jumping rig. So therefore, no matter what your interests are or how religious you consider yourself to be, the Statue of Belief has something for you to do. Number 8. The Mother of all Asia, Tower of Peace. Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam are the most common religions across Asia, yet notably, Christianity takes 4th place. And while the religion is found in small pockets across the continent, the country where it's most popular is undoubtedly the Philippines. It's perhaps because of this that in 2021 a massive pilgrimage site dedicated to the Virgin Mary, who is one of Christianity's central figures, was completed on the island nation. Now, the project was organized by the Mary Mother of the Poor Foundation and led by Catholic priest Fernando Suarez. Suarez got the idea of developing a pilgrimage site from Hermelando Mandanas, a local politician and acquaintance whom he met in 2006. Mandanas' company, Abacor Capital Holdings Incorporated, donated 5 hectares of land to the organization after Suarez's foundation raised about $3.4 million towards construction. The resulting statue is incredible. The Mother of all Asia's hands and face were designed by sculptor Eduardo Castrillo and are made of concrete and steel. At a height of about 98 meters, the statue is both one of the largest statues in the world and the tallest statue of the Virgin Mary in the world. It is also absolutely free to enter, making it a great place to visit. Beyond simply being a statue, it also has several other purposes. On the ground floor, there's the St. John Paul II Shrine, which is a place of worship. Other facilities in the monument are reception halls for conferences and pilgrimage dinners, 20 Marian chapels on the 3rd floor for prayer, a food hall on the 4th floor, 2 mini theaters on the 5th floor, conference rooms as well as a balcony featuring flags of the countries of Asia on the 6th floor, and a viewing deck situated on the 15th floor. Meanwhile, the 7th to 10th floors host commercial and residential spaces. For a price of about $600 per year, you can be recognized in the roll of members and have full access to the site's facilities. Meanwhile, if you upgrade to the advanced membership at a price of about $2,500 a year, you can be voted onto the board of directors. You can sell rights to the membership and can stay for one night at the hotel. So therefore, this statue is kind of both a monument and a business opportunity wrapped into one. Moving on to number 7. The Leshan Giant Buddha. While most of the statues on this list are freestanding structures, the Leshan Giant Buddha is a little bit different. It's carved into a cliff overlooking the Min and Dadu rivers in central Sichuan. This Buddha is a massive stone sculpture. In fact, at 71 meters in height, it's both the largest and tallest stone Buddha in the world, and by far the tallest pre-modern statue in the world. Its origins date back to 723 AD. The story goes that a Chinese Buddhist monk named Hai Tong noticed that the Min and Dadu rivers were constantly turbulent, overturning boats and making passage difficult. He believed that the Maitreya Buddha would calm the turbulent waters if a tribute was made to him. Thus, he initiated a Buddha statue construction project, and when funding was threatened, he was so dedicated that he gouged out his own eyes to show his piety and sincerity. After his death, however, the construction was delayed due to insufficient funding, and it wasn't until about 70 years later that a Chinese general named Jiedushi Wei Gao offered further support and funding for the project. After a long effort, the project was finally completed by Haitong's disciples in the year 803. Now, the statue is far more than just a carved stone block. At the time of its construction, a sophisticated drainage system was incorporated into the Buddha. It includes drainage pipes carved into various parts of the body, with the idea being that these pipes carry away any rainwater to reduce weathering. Additionally, when it was first built, a huge 13-story wooden structure was built to shelter it from rain and sunshine. However, this was torn down by the Mongols in the mid-1300s, and ever since, the statue has sat exposed. The statue has also undergone some major restoration efforts. In as early as the year 960, the giant Buddha was covered in moss and its wooden pavilion had collapsed. Thus, in 1022 and 1063, the giant Buddha was significantly repaired and the wooden pavilion was rebuilt. Since then, the records of the destruction and reconstruction of the Buddha have gone missing, and the original building had been destroyed by war many times. However, this work undoubtedly has helped increase the integrity of the statue. Yet there is trouble once more. You see, thanks to a combination of weathering, air pollution from nearby power plants, and tourism, the statue is in pretty bad shape. It's currently covered in different organisms like lichens, ferns, and plants, and it suffers from a black nose and dirty face. The Chinese government has vowed to conduct restoration efforts to maintain the integrity of this UNESCO World Heritage Site. However, whether or not they'll be successful is yet to be determined. Number 6. The Statue of Unity. At a height of 182 meters, the Statue of Unity in Gujarat, India, is the tallest statue in the world by a large margin, beating second place by a whopping 54 meters. The statue depicts Indian politician and independence activist Vallabhbhai Patel. Patel was the first deputy prime minister and home minister of an independent India and was an adherent of Mahatma Gandhi. Patel thus played a significant role in political integration of India, helping it transform from a colony to an independent state. After studying statues of Patel from across India, a team of historians, artists, and academics chose a design submitted by the Indian sculptor Ram V. Sutar. This design, however, was not entirely unique. After all, it's more or less a larger version of a statue of the leader installed at Ahmedabad International Airport. However, making the design at scale proved to be a challenge. You see, the legs and feet of the statue make it narrow at the base, and that presents a challenge to the stability. In order to address this, two 250-ton tuned mass dampers were installed. It's thanks to these that the statue was able to withstand winds of up to 180 kilometers an hour and earthquakes as high as magnitude 6.5. Over 3,000 laborers and 250 engineers worked on the statue, using thousands of tons of bronze plates, tens of thousands of tons of steel, and 100,000 tons of cement and concrete to build it. Once all was said and done, the final cost came out to $422 million, making it pretty expensive, and it also took a long time to build. Despite being announced in 2013, it wasn't completed until 2018. This all, of course, presents an obvious question. Why not make things a bit easier by simply making a smaller statue? Well, the answer ties to its symbolism. You see, there's a total of 182 seats in the Legislative Assembly. Therefore, making the statue 182 meters tall was symbolic. There are some who question whether it should have been built at all. After all, the $422 million used to create it could have potentially been used to fund schools, hospitals, or all manner of other things. So, this statue, it puts Patel in the spotlight, while also promoting the ruling party's narrative. Number 5. The Buddhas of Bamiyan. Of all the entries on this list, perhaps the saddest surrounds the fates of the Buddhas of Bamiyan. It's located 130 kilometers northeast of Kabul in Afghanistan. They trace their origins back to the years shortly after the fall of the Roman empires. There are a total of 2 statues, the Eastern Buddha, which was 38 meters tall and it was built in 570 AD, and the Western Buddha, which was 55 meters tall and was built in 618 AD. While the area has been ruled by peoples of various faiths for centuries, the statue stood untouched as a holy site for Buddhists. In fact, Buddhists would often stop here while traveling down the Silk Road. However, in 2001, that all changed. 3 years before, in 1998, the area where the Buddhas stood was captured by the Taliban. Upon the area's capture, holes were drilled into the Buddhas' heads, with the idea being that they would be loaded with explosives and set off. However, local Muslims saw the statues as part of their heritage and asked the Taliban not to take them down. In response, a pause was put on their destruction, and for a few years it looked like the Taliban were actually going to use them as a tourism spot. However, on March 1st of 2001, the Taliban abruptly changed course, announcing that all statues depicting humans in Afghanistan would be destroyed. The very next day, work began on demolishing the statues, and over the next few weeks they were taken down. The stated reason was due to the fact that they were religious idols and they shouldn't exist. Despite protests from the international communities, nothing could really be done to stop the destruction, and now the alcoves where the statue once stood remain empty. It is worth noting that in an interview in 2004, the leader of the Taliban that ordered the destruction made an interesting comment about the statues. He said that, quote, "I do not want to destroy the Bamiyan Buddha. In fact, some foreigners came to me and said they would like to conduct a repair work of the Bamiyan Buddha that had been slightly damaged due to rains. This shocked me. I thought these callous people have no regard for thousands of living human beings, the Afghans who are dying of hunger, but they're so concerned about non-living objects like the Buddha. This was extremely deplorable. That's why I ordered its destruction. Had they come for humanitarian work, I would have never ordered the Buddha's destruction." End quote. Well, there's one speculation that the destruction may have been influenced by Al-Qaeda. Well, the theory behind this is they hope to see the statues destroyed in order to further isolate the Taliban from the international community. However, the evidence is only circumstantial. In any case, the loss of these two statues was a massive blow to human heritage. In the years since, various projects have been proposed or undertaken to restore at least parts of the statue. However, since the Taliban have once again taken control of Afghanistan, these plans have been put off indefinitely. Number 4. The Colossus of Nero. Unfortunately, we know relatively little about the Colossus of Nero. Despite being situated right outside the Roman Colosseum, many of the details surrounding it seem to have been lost to history, and to date, we're not exactly sure why. Made of bronze, it was built within the Emperor Nero's imperial housing complex. It was likely constructed between the years 64 and 68 AD. Exactly how tall it was, though, is subject of debate. Some sources say it was 30 meters tall, while others say it was 37. Either way, it was either the first or second tallest statue from antiquity, making it a pretty stunning sight. But Nero's reign wouldn't last for long. In the same year that the statue went up, Nero was declared a public enemy by the Senate, leading to his quick abdication and demise. While the Colossus of Nero was spared destruction, it was also rededicated by the Emperor Vespasian. He added a crown to its head and renamed it Colossus Solus, after the Roman sun god Sol. From then on, it was periodically moved and altered, and in the year 128 AD, the Emperor Hadrian had the statue moved from the Domus Aurea, just to the northwest of the Colosseum, in order to create space for the Temple of Venus in Roma. This proved to be a gargantuan task. After all, 24 elephants had to be enlisted despite the short distance. Then, when the troubled Emperor Commodus took power, he converted it into a statue of himself as Hercules by replacing the head. However, after his death, it was restored to the original look. The last we've heard of the Colossus of Nero came from a document known as the Chronography of 354. It's believed that it collapsed not too long after then, likely during the sack of Rome in 410 or during one of the many earthquakes to shake the city of the 5th century. However, there are some who believe that it did last for longer. You see, a poem by the poet Bede during the Middle Ages stated, "As long as the Colossus stands, Rome will stand. When the Colossus falls, Rome will also fall. When Rome falls, so falls the world." This has been interpreted in several ways. Some say that it relates to the fall of Rome in the past, while others say it's a sign that the Colossus had not yet fallen at the time it was written, around 700 AD. In any case, once the statue fell, it's believed that it was scrapped for metal, meaning that none of the actual statue remains. Number 3. The Motherland Calls. The Soviet Union was one of the most powerful states to exist, and one of the country's crowning moments was the Battle of Stalingrad. While absolutely terrible in terms of its human cost, it played a significant role in the turning of the tide against fascist Germany. Quite understandably, the Soviet Union created many monuments to commemorate this pivotal victory, and the Motherland Calls was perhaps the grandest. The construction effort behind the Motherland Calls was immense. The idea to make a monument dedicated to Stalingrad first gained steam at the end of World War II. In fact, following the end of the war in 1945, several small-scale obelisks and commemorative plaques were erected across the Soviet Union. However, larger plans for monuments were curtailed by leader Joseph Stalin. While this may sound strange, Stalin's motives were political. He sought to refocus attention on emerging Cold War conflicts and virtually prohibited all public observation of the war by 1948. It was because of this that the idea of a grand monument was put on the back burner until Stalin's death in 1953. Then, in March of 1954, the Council of Ministers announced a competition for the design of a state museum of the defense of Tsaritsyn Stalingrad. On January 23, 1958, the Council of Ministers declared that the construction of a memorial monument in the city of Stalingrad commemorating the victory over the German fascist force would be overseen by a committee led by architects Yevgeny Vulcheknik and Yakov Belopolsky. Construction began in 1963 in the city of Volgograd. This was the name given to Stalingrad in 1961 as part of the USSR's de-Stalinization efforts. After about 4 years of work, it was ultimately unveiled on October 15th of 1967. Part of a group of 3 monuments spread across the former USSR, the Motherland Calls was made as a tribute to those who died during the Battle of Stalingrad. A set of 200 steps, which represents the 200 days of the battle, led up to the monument, which stands apart in more ways than one. After all, the height of 85 meters makes it one of the tallest statues in Europe, and given the figure it represents, the tallest statue of a woman in the world. Who is this woman, you may ask? Well, as the name suggests, it's supposed to represent Mother Russia. However, Mother Russia had to get inspiration from somewhere. In this case, it's widely believed that she was based off the body of discus thrower Nina Dombadze and the face of the sculptor's wife, Vera. So yeah, I think you might agree that the sculptor won the Husband of the Year award for immortalizing his wife in such an incredible way. Just 1 year after the monument's opening, cracks had already started to form on its surface. To preserve it, the head and hands of the sculpture were treated with a waterproofing agent once per year, and in 1972 the statue's sword was replaced with a higher-grade steel alloy version. However, by 2009, the entire statue's integrity came into question. In the years since, it seems to have undergone severe decline, as restoration efforts have stalled and black spots have begun to appear on the structure. However, whether or not these will be addressed anytime soon has yet to be determined. Number 2. The Colossus of Rhodes. Today, we've lost some of the greatest buildings from the ancient world, and one of those was none other than the towering Colossus of Rhodes. Referenced extensively by the ancient historians such as Strabo, Pliny, and Philon of Byzantium, the Colossus was located within the Greek city of Rhodes. Depicting the sun god Helios, it was constructed in around 280 BC to commemorate the successful defense of Rhodes against an attack by Demetrius I of Macedon. In terms of scale, it was massive. Coming in at about 70 meters in height, or about 2/3 the height of the Statue of Liberty, it was the tallest statue from antiquity and one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. According to ancient accounts, the structure was built with iron tie bars on the interior and brass plates on the exterior. Now, much of this was taken from the various weapons Demetrius's army left behind, while the support was probably made with the help of an abandoned siege tower. Its streak as an impressive piece of art, though, didn't last for long. After standing for a mere 54 years, it collapsed during an earthquake in 226 BC, alongside many of the buildings in the harbor. Pharaoh Ptolemy III, who was the ruler of Rhodes at the time, offered to pay for the reconstruction of the statue. However, the Oracle of Delphi made the Rhodians fear that they had offended Helios, and so they declined the offer. What they decided to do instead was even weirder. Instead of clearing the area, the people of Rhodes simply decided to leave the statue's broken remains on the ground. For 800 years, the ruins remained in this way, and they were so impressive that many people would travel to Rhodes just to see the ruins. And while there was some talk of rebuilding the statue, by the 4th century AD, Rhodes was a Catholic island, making any plan to rebuild a pagan statue out of the question. Thus, it remained there until 654 BC, and in that year, Arabian forces raided Rhodes and had the statue broken up and the bronze sold for scrap. Supposedly, it took 900 camels to carry all the metal away, which was then sold to a Jewish merchant in the city of Edessa. But some historians tell a different tale. According to Dr. Lawrence Irvin Conrad, the fact that the statue was there for 800 years suggests that at some point, a local ruler likely used some of the metal. He believes that the stories about the dismantling of the statue are propaganda, and by that time the Arabs had arrived in Rhodes. There was little to no metal for them to collect from the statue. However, the true whereabouts of the remains of the Colossus of Rhodes are still up for debate. Oh yeah, it's also worth mentioning that the Colossus has been the victim of some historical fiction. You see, during the Middle Ages, a belief began to spread that the Colossus straddled the harbor, with one foot being at either side. This was likely influenced by the dedication of the statue mentioning the words "over land and sea" twice, and thanks to the writings of an Italian visitor who, in 1395, wrongly interpreted a local tradition about the statue's foot placement. To this day, some depictions of the Colossus of Rhodes still show it straddling the harbor. However, this simply was not the case according to the historical record. Number 1. The Statue of Liberty. Of all the statues on this list, none are as famous or as iconic as the one and only Statue of Liberty. A symbol of America's stated dedication towards prosperity and liberty, it has quite the history. The idea for the statue was first conceived in 1865. In that year, French historian and abolitionist Edouard de Laboulaye suggested that a monument should be created to commemorate the upcoming 100-year anniversary of U.S. independence, the perseverance of America's democratic experiment, and the liberation of the nation's slaves. The Franco-Prussian War delayed the progress, but in 1875, Laboulaye proposed that the people of France finance the statue and the United States provide the site and build the pedestal. On the end of the French, this was all well and fine, and they held up their end of the bargain. However, the United States came very close to canceling the project. You see, fundraising for the statue was initially pretty slow and made worse when New York Governor and future President Grover Cleveland vetoed a bill to provide $50,000 for the statue project in 1884. An attempt the next year to have Congress provide $100,000 for the statue also failed. Soon, the New York committee had just $3,000 in their account, forcing them to suspend work on the pedestal. In response, other American cities such as Philadelphia and Boston quickly began to step in, suggesting that they could take on the statue and foot the entire bill. In an alternate timeline, this would have happened, but in ours, New York publicist Joseph Pulitzer came to the rescue. The head of the New York World newspaper, he announced a drive to raise $100,000 for the statue. At the time, this was a gargantuan amount. In today's money, it would amount to about $3.5 million. Yet despite the high price, Pulitzer made an ingenious offer. He pledged to print the name of every single contributor, no matter how small the amount given, into his paper. Soon the drive began to capture the imagination of New Yorkers as endearing entries were submitted. This included a young girl alone in the world who donated 60 cents as the result of self-denial. A group of children sent $1 as the money we saved to go to the circus with, and a home for alcoholics sent a combined donation of $15. In tandem, these donations amounted to quite the sum. The New York World announced that $102,000 had been raised from 120,000 donors, with 80% of the total donating less than $1. This in turn played a major role in financing the statue and instantly put it at the forefront of the hearts and minds of New Yorkers. On June 17th of 1885, the French steamer Isère arrived in New York with the crates holding the disassembled statue on board. However, it wasn't until April of 1886 that the pedestal was completed, and once this happened, the statue was put up. First, the iron framework was anchored to the steel beams within the concrete pedestal and assembled. Then, piece by piece, the skin of the statue was attached. Now, this proved to be a dangerous job. Due to the width of the pedestal, it was not possible to erect the scaffolding, and workers dangled from ropes while installing the sections. The end result, though, was incredible. The copper-clad statue, which is 93 meters from its pedestal to its top, is inspired by the Roman goddess of liberty, Libertas. In a contrapposto pose, she holds a torch above her head with her right hand, and in her left hand carries a tablet inscribed with America's Independence date. With her left foot, she steps on a broken chain and shackle, commemorating the national abolition of slavery and the newfound freedom of those immigrating to America. Almost immediately, the Statue of Liberty took on an intense cultural meaning. For immigrants arriving on nearby Ellis Island, the Statue of Liberty was a symbol of hope in a strange foreign land. Meanwhile, tourists from across America and the rest of the world saw it as a massive testament to American strength, freedom, and democracy. It's because of this that the statue, in many respects, is the foremost symbol of the American dream. The statue was also associated with a unique piece of poetry. As part of the fundraising efforts, poet Emma Lazarus was asked to donate an original work to a charity auction. She initially declined, stating she could not write a poem about a statue. However, as an activist for refugees, she soon realized that she could use this as an opportunity to advocate for their plight. In her resulting sonnet, The New Colossus, she included the immortal lines, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." To this day, this statement is uniquely identified with the Statue of Liberty in American culture, and it's inscribed on a plaque in its museum. However, this is not to say that the statue was without controversy. You see, in the day of its dedication, members of the general public were not permitted on the island during the ceremonies, which were reserved entirely for dignitaries. Furthermore, the only women granted access to the site were the wife of the head sculptor and granddaughter of a French diplomat, angering suffragettes and inciting many to charter a boat close to the island. It's because of this that many saw the opening as being incredibly hypocritical in relation to the values that the statue was supposed to stand for. Yet despite its less than ideal origins, the statue is still considered to be an incredible symbol of American democracy. If you want to visit it, you can either take the Staten Island ferry and ride past it for free, or if you'd like to get up close and personal, pay $25 for a pass that includes entry to both Ellis Island and the statue monument. For additional fees, you can also access the crown or pedestal, and while some may argue that a testament to American freedom should be free to visit, at the Statue of Liberty, capitalism has won the day. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our channel members.